This video is brought to you by Squarespace. There is something about Alpine / Renault as they were that has always frustrated me. They just never seem to be consistent enough to look like a team that you can trust to take that next step, and even after a positive 2020 with plenty of room to improve, the team just seemed to kind of be in the middle of nowhere in 2021, and instead of fighting for podiums like they did with their drivers last year, now a good weekend is finishing in the points. But what has happened so far with both their car and their two drivers, and can their season still be saved in 2021? First of all, let's compare the stats in terms of where they are in the standings after the first 6 races compared to last year. In 2020, they were 7th in the constructor standings, scoring 36 points, 20 of those coming from Ricciardo and 16 of them coming from Ocon, with a best team finish up to that point of a 4th at the British Grand Prix courtesy of Ricciardo. Now, if you compare that to this year, they are currently 8th in the standings on 25 points, with Alonso scoring 13 and Ocon scoring 12. However, the team's best finish so far is only 6th, which came after Alonso's mega restart in Baku as he went from 10th to 6th in one lap. And on the subject of the drivers, as far as Esteban Ocon, he has been great so far this season, and although he is now behind Fernando Alonso in the championship, albeit by just 1 point, he has finished ahead of Fernando in every single race that they've both reached the checkered flag. Despite the car underperforming, this is the Esteban Ocon that we know and that we last saw at the end of 2018. He looks to have regained that lightning qualifying pace that he seemed to lack in 2020 compared to Ricciardo, and there is no doubt that he has been the better of the two Alpine drivers so far. In fact, it's even been rumored very recently that the team have already began talks with Ocon about signing a new contract, which, given all of the pressure from drivers like Pierre Gasly around Esteban Ocon's seat, is a huge positive and shows that Alpine have trust in Ocon going into 2022 and beyond. As far as Fernando Alonso, that 6th place in Baku has really saved his first 6 races, because if you take that result away, it hasn't exactly been a great comeback so far. His qualifying pace has been the biggest issue, and I think it just shows that something isn't quite clicking yet between him and the car. In the races, I think he's been right there in terms of pace compared to Ocon, and he's shown that in terms of racecraft, there is still plenty of that Alonso magic still left. But similar to Seb at Aston Martin, with him grabbing that P5 in Monaco, which then led to that incredible podium in Baku, Fernando needs to use Baku as a springboard and start stitching together quality weekends from start to finish. His first 6 races have been okay compared to Ocon, but similar to Aston Martin and McLaren, by the end of this 23 race season, we need to see who in their respective teams is the real number 1 driver, and at Alpine between Ocon and Alonso, it's not quite clear just yet. The next thing we need to talk about is the car, but before we get into that, let's quickly talk about the sponsor of today's video, who are the legends over at Squarespace. If you're looking to build your own website using an easy-to-use platform for your personal blog, your online store, or maybe even a portfolio for your work, then Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for you. You don't need any experience in web design, there is a huge amount of guidance, the interface is also very easy to use, and they have a bunch of incredible templates that you can start using right away. It only takes seconds to drag and drop the pictures that you want, change the fonts, titles, design, and color of your website, and in no time, like you can see on the screen as an example, you can have a blog ready to go. And there is even a feature that shows you what your website would look like, both on desktop and also on a phone as well. Now, if you are interested or just curious, then head over to squarespace.com and just have a play around with the web designer. You don't actually have to pay anything, it's all free to use, so you can just kind of let your creativity run wild. But then if you do want to make your website go live to the rest of the world, you can then use my code Aldas or use the link at the very top of the description to save yourself 10% on your first website or domain. So once again, a massive thank you to Squarespace. As far as the drivers then, although I don't think that they've been exceptional, I think both of them over 6 races have done a pretty solid job as a pairing, considering the car that they have. However, let's now talk about that car, because although I still maintain what I said in my livery ranking video, that the Alpine to me is the best looking car on the grid with its electric blue livery, Alpine have majorly underdelivered in 2021. Now, I did not expect Alpine to be heading the midfield and pushing the likes of Red Bull and Mercedes, but the reason why I think they've been the biggest disappointment so far is because they've kind of just blended into the background. When you look at the other midfield teams, McLaren had strong weekends in Bahrain and Imola, Ferrari were arguably the quickest car overall in Monaco, let alone just the quickest car in the midfield, Aston Martin over the last 2 races especially have really looked strong, and especially in terms of how long their drivers have been able to make their tyres last. And even AlphaTauri have shown really great turns of speed with Pierre Gasly in places like Bahrain, Monaco, and of course culminating in that podium in Baku. But with Alpine, they've just sort of been there. They had their best weekend so far in Portimao with both of their 2 drivers finishing in the points, but even then they weren't exactly the standouts of the midfield because both the Ferrari and McLaren still finished ahead of them. Last year, especially towards the end of the season, they really started to trouble McLaren, and it looked like this year we could get like a 4-way shootout in that midfield between McLaren, Ferrari, Aston Martin and Alpine, with AlphaTauri also in the mix, but it just hasn't been that way. The biggest talking point in testing when it came to Alpine was their thick new airbox, and by thick I mean like with 3 C's looking at how big that thing looked, but in reality the car just isn't good enough. The team is not quick enough in qualifying, and then have even had some major tyre warm-up issues like in Monaco, which the team didn't understand and which basically stopped them on capitalizing on other teams' poor weekends. Now again, I wasn't expecting Alpine to be this big surprise in 2021 and be pushing for podiums every single race and challenging Red Bull and Mercedes, but the car looks to be such a step down that it's going to be difficult to improve it for the rest of the season, because surely by now quite a lot of the focus, if not all of it, should be on the new regs in 2022. In fact, Alonso said in 2020 when he signed that the team should focus fully on 2022 if they want to become a genuine title contender, which I actually agreed with, but they're still developing this year's car, and they say the reason for their struggles is down to a wind tunnel correlation issue which held back their development for 2021. However, one of the problems with that is that if you're having correlation issues, it doesn't matter how early you switch your focus onto 2022, or even if you've done it already, if you don't understand the fundamental issues between your wind tunnel readings and then what your car is actually doing on the track, then the same problems are just going to start reappearing on the 2022 car. Now, Alpine have come out and since said that they have solved these issues, but I don't know about you, but that just doesn't exactly fill me with confidence anyway. Alpine/Renault have been one of those teams over the past few seasons that's just been ridiculously inconsistent. In 2018, they finished best of the rest with Nico Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz and looked to be the team on the up. Then in 2019, after a big signing with Ricciardo joining the team, it looked like they now finally had the momentum and the star driver to make that next step up and start challenging for podiums. But 2019 would turn out to be a letdown, and even worse than the year before. Then we get into 2020, and before the season even started in Austria, Ricciardo decided to jump ship for McLaren after only 1 season, which at the time didn't exactly show much faith in the team's future. They did finally make some progress and ended the season with 3 podiums. However, although it kind of started to look like there might be the slimmest chance that they could challenge McLaren for that 3rd place in 2021, now that we're actually in 2021, they have regressed yet again, and especially over the last couple of races, they honestly look like they are closer to Alfa Romeo than they are to AlphaTauri and Aston Martin. So, this is why Alpine are just such a frustratingly difficult team to gauge right now. They're the type of team that if you told me next year that they would either be the surprise of the grid and challenging for race wins, or they would be just another midfield team hoping for a podium, or a team at the back of the grid fighting for 9th and 10th, somehow all of those options seem realistic for a team like Alpine with how inconsistent they've been. Alpine are confusing. I don't know if I should call it overblown expectations or yet another false dawn, but with their two drivers improving as the season has gone on, with a driver like Alonso who expects to at least be given the slimmest chance to fight for a podium like Ricciardo was, and given all of the restructuring that has gone on at the top with Cyril Abiteboul being replaced by Marcin Budkowski as team principal, I always expect more from Alpine, but somehow feel left disappointed. Of course, nothing is over yet, and I'm trying to hold back my skepticisms as much as I can because I don't want to be too negative. The team could still be the big surprise in 2022 and do what Mercedes did in 2014 and be the team to get everything right and maybe have Alonso and Ocon as title rivals, which to me is kind of hilarious to even think about, but regardless, 2021 looks so far to be another one of their bad years, and although nothing is over yet, and they could still keep on improving and maybe bag some big points and maybe even a podium later on in the season, there is no doubt that to me, after 6 races they have been the biggest disappointment, and it just makes me worry about where the team will be in the future if they can't get everything right in the here and now. So there you go. Now let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below about Alpine, and once again a massive thank you to Squarespace. If you guys do want to save 10% off your first website or domain, then either use my code Aldas or follow the link at the very top of the description. Once again, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, then don't forget to drop a like and smash that subscribe button. We are now so close to 100,000 subscribers, so that is going to be mad. I can't wait for that. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.